Okay. The
What's the momentum on the, we're live.
it's a little dark.
Okay, it's fine. People are not here to look at me, they're here to look at you, Howard. And
Well,
some
look at me. How do I look?
I mean,
How do I look?
looking good.
What's your opinion on Robinhood? Since everybody else chimes in, what's your opinion?
I mean, they're going through some growing pains, I guess. They just grew too fast.
I think that's a fair answer. Do you like Robinhood? Do you use Robinhood?
Yes, I do.
Wow, Ivan, who cares about commission? So what do you use it for?
Mostly, I mean, crypto and some options since it's free.
And do you feel like you're getting ripped off?
Sometimes, and I know I'm not getting the best feels.
So then why do you do it? I mean, let's explain that, because that's
my
a
bigger
great
account
answer.
is with Interactive Brokers, but I also use Robinhood.
The
Because I
lesson
know
is
that occasionally each broker, can go down. So I want to have two of them.
Mhm.
In the case when one of them is down, I can use the other one.
Mhm.
I mean, my Robinhood account is not small. It's 6 figures, but
6 figures in Bulgarian kronas or US dollars?
in Arizonian drachmas.
The drachma does not exist, I don't think, anymore. You're so funny. So I think this is a good lesson. Ivan, who's, I would say, maybe the most skeptical human being and precise, given my last dollar guy in the world, is that got the right attitude. You're always trading against somebody. UI matters. Obviously you like the UI and you like the fact that you can buy 1 lots and 10 lots quickly. Ivan's not so much worried about his fill. You don't think you're getting insanely, you check what you do limit orders, I imagine.
I know it could be a little bit better.
But you're using limits, you're not doing market orders, I assume. You know that you are part of the, you are getting front run or some level of, it's not perfect.
It's convenience. It's convenience.
It's convenience. And
you're
that's
right.
you need to understand. If you think Robinhood has the functionality or the service of a Merrill Lynch or a Fidelity or a Schwab, that is not why you use it. You heard it from Ivan. This is for people with 5, maybe even 4 figures to even 6 or 7 figures. But it's not going to be the place where you should put all your chips. The business of investing is having backup plans. And as Ivan would say, his meat and potatoes is somewhere else. Interactive Brokers, which are traders, has been around, 30 years and still has their own software woes. I can't fucking figure it out, but it's an incredible company. But your job is to have your money fail safe, to keep it liquid in as many places as possible within your use case. So that's a fair answer, Ivan. And were you caught up in any of this nonsense with AMC or GME or halted or
No. I mean, I haven't. And I mean, you have to understand they were protecting themselves as a company. Correct. And they were protecting the rest of the customers who are not the general gamblers. So yes, they were probably undercapitalized for their big growths, and they're trying to fix that. But it's another lesson learned. There's so many lessons.
I think, Ivan, you should have their PR department, because people would adore you. No, it's not just me that adores you and all the thousands of women that watch every week, but that was a good answer.
All the 5 women that are watching. Let's go back to the markets. Obviously, that big short squeeze that's going on, not only in GameStop and in AMC, but also in the most shorted names, the most shorted probably 100 names. It's not just last week, it's been going on for the past 3-4 weeks. And maybe even before that, it's starting to impact the rest of the markets, because definitely we are now seeing negative correlation, between the S&P 500 and the most highly shorted stocks. And now that maybe funds cannot or don't want to short those high flyers like GME and AMC, but they want to decrease their exposure to these, crazy high markets, we're starting to see pressure in the rest of the market. So currently all the indices are in a pullback mode. All the main ones close below their 20-day EMA. Like long term, I'm still bullish. You know, the underlying currents are still bullish, but that doesn't mean that, we talked about it last week, that doesn't mean that we cannot have a 10-15% pullback. And it can happen very swiftly. And when you have a 10-15% pullback in an index, that could mean, 30% pullback in a momentum stock. So it's good to have an exit strategy or a hedging strategy if you're not an active trader. And last week we saw the VIX finally spiked on Wednesday, and it's looking bullish in a short-term perspective. The other big theme from last week that definitely stood out is COVID stocks. I'm not sure if it's because some of them are highly shorted or because the market is starting to worry about the new mutations. We talked about it last week as well, but so many of the vaccine stocks just erupted higher. And also the testing stocks reported very strong earnings results and are kind of standing out in an overall weak tape. Because if you just take the weakest stocks aside, the most shorted stocks aside, like the only group of stocks that's currently strong is basically related to COVID. Everything else is kind of under pressure. So what's your take, Howard? What are you seeing?
Well, it's a great question. I'm just going to take the week off. I think, that's a great looking. There's winners out there. I have the sneaky. The hair on my neck was rising at the. I'm getting used to, like, people don't have the time to yell at Trump, so all this noise is now being sent elsewhere on the internet. And the NASDAQ price action was terrible. Apple. We had Apple, Facebook, Tesla report on the same day, and no one cared. GameStop. That kind of stuff just creeps me out. Like, no, I still can't get caught up on the Apple news, right? Because of the Robinhood and GameStop and AMC nonsense, And I had an AMC trade on. Let's pull up AMC. Okay, I'm not supposed to make money in these. Shared it on StockTwits at $3. You could see it developing. It seemed like a good risk reward. They got the financing done. The stock opened a couple days later at 8. I tried to sell it pre-market, and my fill was 16. So you're not supposed to make money doing the wrong thing in markets. And I'm happy. I mean, it's fun, but I don't like the way people are talking. I don't like the behavior of the mob. They're posting, let's meet at 9 a.m. and discuss a stock pick. It's not the ethics that, at StockTwits that we had. Of course, people can move the markets. They've been doing it on CNBC for years. But the fact that both the regulators can step in, margin requirements are definitely going to change. The fact that the banks don't like getting laughed at. There's a lot of big players that can just, pull money out. And you have high valuations, you have bad behavior, you have a lot of noise, which that's a wall of worry. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm bullish, but there's not enough ideas that are working in the last week. And then you had the NASDAQ reversal candle. Like, if you look at the QQQ, that was an ugly, ugly week, which, doesn't mean anything, but I'd rather buy stocks on the way up. That's kind of the way I am, or a much bigger dip than this. I'd get excited if the NASDAQ was a 200-day. There's plenty of stuff to do, but when people are screaming this loud and the behavior's this badly and the price action was kind of weak last week, I'm not looking for new ideas quite yet. So I'm just going to see how it plays out with Robinhood and how the regulators react and the politicians. And I've got I just didn't see so did you see any other new ideas? So I'm going to take a punt this week and kind of see what happens next week.
Right now, obviously, the strange thing about this pullback is that correlations are not as high. Yes, when you still have the COVID stocks, you have the highly shorted stocks that are trading in their own bizarre world, and then the rest of the market that for the most part has been under pressure. So obviously, when the indices are pulling back, they're good shorting opportunities, but I don't think it's wise in this environment of punishing shorts, to be short any stock for anything more than a quick intraday scalp, which is an approach that is not for everyone. But lately, my attention have been on all the COVID stocks. This is where
So what specifically? So this is the traders thing.
I mean, all the vaccine stocks, NVAX, DVAX.
Congrats. Did you mention that last week, NVAX?
Yeah, we covered all the COVID stock. Remember, I talked about it. That all of those stocks are setting up again. This one is flagging, setting up again. INO, another COVID stocks. Still below its 200-day, but it's kind of setting up.
Flagging and wedging. These are not for me. This is a good swing opportunity. So there's a swing market right now.
All the testing stocks. I mean, they had, as I said, Hologic. I think all of them, for some reason, are San Diego companies. Hologic and
one that I bought last week and I shared was Illumina, ILMN, broke out finally. This really. So take a look at the weekly.
Yeah.
This is another testing in San Diego company. That's like a 3-year base. It had many false breakouts. If this breakout around 400 holds, I think that's a $600-700 move in a bull market. They have there's a lot of noise about smaller competitors that have done very well. This is a huge company. But there was 3 years there where that was trying to break out. So that looked interesting to me. And I pointed it out.
I think QDAO is definitely one of the innovative companies in the field, something to pay attention to. I'm not sure if it's highly shorted. 3 days of short interest. So short interest this is basically the short interest ratio, which is when you take the shorts.
Which is pretty cool. Like IBD has that short interest.
Over the daily average daily volume. That means that it will take 3 days for the short to cover if they need to.
What do you look for? How many days?
I mean, I'm not only looking at short float. I'm also.
No, but if you're looking at short, what's like a minimum that's interesting?
There's no minimum for me. The more important is the chart, other catalysts, like earnings, industry momentum, and obviously lately in the past 30 days or so, the short float has worked really well as a catalyst on its own. There's no certain number. I mean, yes, I've been screening for companies with more than 20% of their float short, but last week we saw companies with 10% of their float short doing just as well. So anytime when you have a company setting up near its 52-week high with more than 10% of its float short, that's a good setup, because supposedly all those shorts, if they're managing risk properly, they're supposed to cover. And if you don't cover, then you have something like Melvin Capital, which was considered one of the best hedge funds for the past 6-7 years, up on average 30% a year. They're down 54% in January alone. So how are you a long short fund, which is because you want a smaller drawdown?
The exciting thing about this era is that the individual has a chance. That doesn't mean you're entitled. I think that's where we've crossed over. You're doing hard work. I mean, you are like, if you're trading AMC and GME, God bless. But if you think that entitles you to the fruits of the market, you're getting a bad education. Okay, you're following the wrong people. Wall Street Bets started out whenever it started out as truly a pretty good research site, right? It was Reddit is a powerful site. The people using it. Wall Street Bets is not even close to what it was like at the beginning. It's literally people doing stupid things with their money. And for the average person showing up at Wall Street Bets or Twitter or StockTwits expecting to beat the market on the first day, you are going to get your ass handed to you. It takes years and years to learn how to just do the market and invest, let alone read message boards and understand who's good and who's bad. So I have to say it again, this is why I'm acting cautious here, is the underlying behavior that is the mob right now is not doing the right thing with their cap. I'm not saying they should buy FANG or do Vanguard, but bidding up things that aren't good for the company. Like GameStop going to 400 helps nobody at the company. Putting Melvin out of business only means there's going to be another hedge fund. So I don't know what the end game of these things are, and I don't want to be part of stuff where the mob does that. It's like storming the Capitol. What's the real end game? It's just nonsense. and storming a stock and AMC, like, okay, that was a good idea. Like if you pull up AMC, it's a good idea. Maybe they got their financing. Maybe Netflix buys them. Netflix is not going to pay $20 a share. So I don't know who it benefits with the stock going to $20. Anybody interested in the turnaround on AMC thought that AMC could maybe be at $6 if the economy opens. So I'm saying at $15, they don't have any options here. It's just the same business plan. No one got rich except some people who stormed the stock. Doesn't mean it won't go to 100. And so would you trade something like this, Ivan, with all the choices out there?
I mean, short term, yes, I can trade anything. But to your point, there were some companies that benefited from that big spike. There were some long-term holders that were,
AMC doesn't benefit. They can't do anything. Well, who are they going to, like, what is
well,
that?
they can raise money at a higher price, and they did. And they had some convertible bonds that, they created some new shares through them. So typically, this is how reflexivity can work if the management is smart. When your stock price goes up a lot, and then you can use it as a currency to pay off your debt, to hire the best talent, to issue more stock, buy competitors, and stuff like this. So in theory, it can work. This is how reflexivity is supposed to work. When the higher prices actually lead to better fundamentals, this is going to happen with an AMC and their current business model. That's a completely separate question.
Look at you! You're going off today like a superstar. All right. Well, you're not going to convince me to do anything this week. I am playing defense, and I hope I'm wrong. If we're back here next week and some of your ideas.
Before we go, who do you think is going to win Super Bowl? Since it's not Sunday, right?
It feels like the Chiefs have the best team. I always root for the favorite. I think that the Chiefs are favorite.
You're a trend follower. Okay, I'll go with the other ones. I'll go with the Buccaneers.
Let me just go around the index. So let's just go around some of the indexes just so you see. Oh, let me pull up Goldman Sachs because I feel like that's pulling back. It was a huge breakout.
The financials are pulling back.
Yeah, like to me, that's interesting. Like again, I'd like to see some strength here, but if it starts showing some strength.
And interestingly, with interest rates starting to rise, which is weird.
There's some weird shit going on. Like I don't like it. And I don't like playing when I don't understand what's going on. But the uptrends are fabulous. I don't mind paying a little higher price.
And silver is breaking out, and I know that that Reddit, Wall Street, whatever, they're talking about silver, and now silver is breaking out.
Remember, the professionals are now reading the same boards.
Yeah.
Right. So once the game's up, you think these hedge funds don't have 100? Listen, I know the hedge funds. They're calling me. They are all over Wall Street bets. And if you don't think they can get better execution than Frank buying one share or 50 calls, you are not. These people don't know they don't know the games that the pros can play. And so I would urge people, when they're showing up at Wall Street bets thinking they're going to double their money on next, it works for a while and then it won't work. And then who do you trust? And why did you buy something? So I just would urge people this week to kind of respect some of the gains they might have gotten. And have a great week, buddy. We'll be back next week.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Bye-bye.